Hello everybody, this is a Hammerwatch editor tutorial about bridges and invisible walls. It was requested. Um, so I'm going to show you how to make all these bridges and exactly what things to look for in a bridge, and then how to make walls invisible and for an invisible maze or invisible barriers, whatever you want. Okay, so let's start out with the invisible walls. It turns out that there's not actually any invisible walls that I can find, but you can actually just make the walls and then turn them invisible with a script. So right here we have a global event trigger, and it's triggered when level loads. It is activating this, which is a hide object script, and it's selecting these walls right here. And so if we run the game, this will turn all these walls invisible, but the physical barriers of the walls will remain. And what I mean by physical barriers is currently each one of these has a green square around it, and if I select these, it adds more green squares. Well, the green squares that are added are just the selection squares, but these green squares that are right here right now are actually physical barrier squares. If you go up to Show in your Options tab, you can click on Show Physics, also click F1 for the shortcut key, and that will add or remove the current physical barriers in your game. These are the things that your player is going to collide with. So let's turn those on. And now you can see exactly where your player is going to collide. In this location right here, your player is not going to collide, but if it hits any of these walls, he will collide. Same with over here, these walls. If you look really close, if you select these, the selection goes all the way up to here, but the player doesn't collide with this top part of the sprite. It actually only collides with right here. So we can walk a little bit behind that wall up there. Now, so in any case, creating invisible walls, I'd suggest using walls more like this, which is located in the bonus theme, and it's a lot easier to see where the physical barriers are. They're exactly on top of where the sprite is, or the image. If you're using these walls, the physical barriers are kind of weird and funky, and they're awkwardly shaped. So these are good objects to use, the ledges, and these are good objects to use, the bonus walls, if you want to make an invisible wall, because you can make it as complex as you want, and you're not going to get confused. And then just hide all these objects when the game starts, and there you go, you got invisible walls. And then you can reveal and hide again whenever you want, if you want the walls to flash on and off. But those physical barriers will always be there unless you delete the object. So let's move on to bridges. And in my doodads, I'm just going to search bridge. So I have all my bridges right here, all my bridge pieces. So I made a small bridge right here, which consists of 4 pieces, which are all corner pieces of a bridge, and I just placed them like so they're all connected. Now all these bridge pieces have their own physical barriers that they come with. See, when it's deselected, you can see them, which there's one here, one there, one down there, and one down there. So if you're to run and test this, your player would collide with each of these little awkward shapes, and if he walks in between, he won't collide with anything, and he'll walk right across the bridge, or if he walks above or below, he can just walk around. But that's why I have these ledges here, to provide the remaining physical barriers, so your player can't just walk around the bridge. He actually has to walk across it. See? Now over here we have more physical barriers that lead into this bridge, and if you pull this bridge down and then deselect, you can see exactly where the bridge's barriers are, up here and down here. This is a bigger bridge, I think. Yeah, it's a wood bridge, horizontal, version 2, and this is the vertical. But we can do a horizontal leftmost and a horizontal rightmost if we want to cap that off, and these have those right there. And then you can add in these little support beams if you want the more aesthetic, just the visual effect to be finished off. And none of these come with their own physical barriers, so if you remove them, they have no physical barriers on them, and so they're not going to affect your player's movement. So your player can continue through here, get over to this section, and now here's an unfinished bridge. The reason it's unfinished is because I tried to use these pieces, and there's no centerpiece that you can put in there that will fill in this space. The only centerpieces are about this size, and so they're only meant for making larger bridges. But for this smaller bridge, instead of using these pieces, I would suggest using these, because they come with it filled in and they're not too big. Here's a vertical bridge. And now if we look closely, we can see there's small gaps in these physical barriers right here and right here. This gap I believe is too small for a player to walk through, but just in case, let's cap it off by throwing in some ledges. And then this space over here, I'm pretty sure a player can walk through there. And so just so your player doesn't start walking outside of the map, you want to cap those off at all times, because they can definitely cheat by doing that and make it to awkward locations and skip vital parts in your map if you leave those open. So all these bridges, I have ledges closing off everything so nobody can walk around the bridge. You need to pay attention to that when you're making your map. If you have anything that's open like this, it looks like a flat line, but they can walk out into this empty space unless they're blocked off from it. Okay, so yeah, this bigger bridge, its pieces are located under the very top. When you search bridge, it's the theme Woodbridge 2 horizontal. It's all the Woodbridge 2s. You got horizontal corner piece, left downmost, left upmost, right downmost, right upmost. And these pieces need to be filled in with either this. There's also leftmost, horizontal leftmost, and that it kind of has a bit of a kind of like edged off piece right here. That's because that's to make it look like that's the start of the bridge. So we kind of have a start of the bridge here and an end of the bridge here, and those pieces are the left and right caps. These are just the general horizontals, and I believe there's a skinnier version of it somewhere in here, but I don't know. That's pretty much everything there is to do with the bridges. You can make these twice as large if you want. Let's do that really quick. I'll move this down here. Copy, paste. Now we have a bridge twice as big. But there's no smaller increments, and so you really can't specify your bridge size very well, which is kind of obnoxious. These bridges are also located in there, but I'm pretty sure these are only meant for cinematic point of view, because this bridge actually has a physical barrier on the bottom, but no physical barrier on the top. And so if you want to use this bridge, I would suggest placing a wall at the top. So now it has this physical barrier that's capping off your player from walking out of your level again. Over here, this edge is capped off. This edge is capped off. But over here, these edges are not capped off. And so your player can just walk straight from this bridge to this bridge. But what I would suggest, if you want to do something like the campaign had at the very end, with these planks, how your player just walked across, if you pull in one of these pieces that has two physical barriers on the top and the bottom, but none in between each of these broken segments, they can actually just walk straight across here. But if we throw in some invisible walls, then your player cannot walk through there, and then just delete the wall and replace it with a plank if you want the same effect as the campaign. And these planks have two physical barriers, but not where your player can walk across the actual wood piece. Let's see. Yeah, these little guys are also in the, when I searched bridge, these guys are also in there, but they don't mean anything. They're just for campaign purposes. Yeah, one more thing. If you scroll out far enough, it'll actually fill in each of those physical barrier segments. And so from this point of view, you can actually see exactly which squares are the physical barriers and which aren't. Because if you're zoomed in right here, you'd be kind of confused. You might think that in between this top physical barrier and in between this bottom physical barrier, it's a square, like right here. You might think that that's a square, but if you're ever confused, just scroll all the way out and it'll show you exactly which is the physical barrier by filling it in. That's pretty much all there is to do with bridges and invisible walls, I believe. If you have any more questions, post them in the comments. But one of the reasons I stopped making tutorials is because if I try to test my maps, I keep getting an error file, which is this, crash. And I haven't been able to fix that, and so it's been kind of discouraging. So sorry I've been putting off making a lot of these videos, but when I can't test my maps, it makes it really hard to actually, be committed to actually making a map. And I had a couple more tutorials lined out, but I just haven't gotten to them because I can't test. So sorry if I couldn't test this one to show you exactly how it all works, but hopefully I explained it well enough. And that's it.